Okay, we'll get started. So, hi everyone. Welcome to our March lecture series. My name is Richard. I'm the founder of All Ivy Events, a professional social club. We put together weekly events around the United States, from networking happy hours, mixers, wine tastings, exclusive sporting events, theater nights, weekend getaways, and our very special monthly lecture series. Some of our past lectures included topics like AI and its impact on the world, how to turn your passion into a business, investing in your own Broadway show with a Tony Award-winning Broadway producer, how to create your own podcast, and many more. This month, we have a very special guest, JUDY KATZ, a seasoned ghostwriter, book publisher, and book promoter. She has ghostwritten or edited more than 60 books, several of which have become bestsellers. Today, JUDY is going to be addressing how to publish your own book, a supportive, easy-to-follow lecture to publishing, launching with confidence, and sharing your story. Today's topics will include how to know your true story and who the right audiences are to tell it, how to time block so that you can write your story or work with a ghostwriter or editor, how most ghostwriters and editors work and what it costs, how to get an agent to take your book to a traditional publisher and what's involved, if you want to self-publish, what exactly is that process, and how to market yourself and your book. JUDY is a graduate of the University of California, Berkeley, where she received her BA in English Literature and Communications. All attendees today will receive a complimentary private 30-minute phone session with JUDY to ask her any questions one-on-one. You'll get her email and you'll schedule that session with her directly. Feel free throughout the lecture today to put questions in the chat box. And at the end of the lecture, we'll have 30 minutes of Q&A at the end. This lecture will be recorded and everyone will receive a copy via email. So JUDY, thanks so much for joining us this evening. Thank you so much.
Well, Richard, thank you for this exciting opportunity to share my knowledge. Thank you all for being here. My mission, my passion, and my purpose are to help motivated individuals become successful authors and establish themselves as authorities in their field. So thank you for being here. And I hope you're beginning your journey as authors now, and I can help you on the way. I have to tell you guys something. I have to tell you the truth. I am not a spring chicken. I've been around the sun 85 times. So in addition to giving talks about how to become a successful author, I also talk about maybe changing the conversation about aging. Because if you believe the movies and ads that you see, somebody my age should be in a rocking chair or a wheelchair, maybe in a nursing home, and maybe with a few marbles missing. And that is not my reality, or the reality of a lot of people I know who are in their 70s and even 80s, 90s. And not just celebrities, run-of-the-mill people, doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, artists, teachers, everybody. So I think it's really important to know that, but I see that you guys are all what I call amoebas, because you're much younger than I am. You have, all right, well, you're still younger than I am. And you have a long road ahead of you. And there's plenty of time to become a successful author. So forgive me, I'm going to rely a little bit on my notes because that's my teleprompter. And there'll be questions later. And of course, you can each speak to me privately if you'd like to about your particular situation. So let me tell you, 2 years ago, I was living in a building with a pool. And so I took advantage and I learned how to swim at 83. If I can learn how to swim at that age, you can write a powerful book, maybe even a bestseller, if you choose to. And yes, I have ghostwritten, edited, and promoted over 60 books so far. And as long as I have my wits, I plan to keep going, because to me, retirement is a dirty word. My brother Steve lives in Arlington, Texas, and he thinks I should move there. And here's what I say, not to him, but to myself: shoot me in the head. Just kill me now, because I walk everywhere, and there you can't go anywhere. And forgive me if a lot of you use cars a lot and you drive places, but I'm just used to being a city person where you can walk to a restaurant or a movie or this or that. In Texas, Dallas, and that area where my brother is, you don't even see people walking on the street. Everybody's in a car all the time. So I'm going to be staying in New York for the foreseeable future. Okay, so let's start with what we're going to cover in the next 90 minutes. You're stuck with this New Yorker, and I hope to be your little Yoda, and hopefully bring you some new information that will put you on the right path on your journey. So we want to talk about how to know what your true story is, how to time block, how ghostwriters and editors work, how to get an agent, perhaps. Should you consider a hybrid, and what's involved in terms of self-publishing? So let me start with who I think you are in the audience right now. Because whenever I give talks, there are 4 categories of people. The first category are people who are always told, you have a great story, whether it's business or a memoir or even a novel. I've done several novels. Romana Clay will talk about that. But, you don't know if your story is good enough. Who is your audience? You're really unsure if you have the ability, or who do you work with. So you know what? You've done nothing. But you want to write a book. That's why you're here. That's why you think about it. But you don't know how to get started. That's category 1, and we're going to talk about that. Category 2 are people who have started to write a book. Maybe you have an outline, a table of contents, your roadmap for the book. Maybe you've written a chapter or 2. Maybe you've shown it to some people and they were very positive. I will give you one hint. It's always good to have a beta group, but don't ask somebody you sleep with if your writing is any good. I'm just telling you, they're not going to tell you the truth. Not if they want to keep sleeping with you. And so you have something written, but you haven't done anything with it. The third category are people who have an entire manuscript. I think we have somebody like that here. An entire manuscript is written, and it's also in a drawer because you don't know who to show it to, how to get it out to an agent, or even how to self-publish it. It's just sitting there and you're frustrated. I have this book, I want to use it, and you don't know what to do next. So we're going to help you with that. And then lastly, you have people who have published a book, whether they went to a traditional publishers, large, medium, small, or they self-published. The book is out. The book is on Amazon. And guess what? Nobody's buying it. Maybe there was a flurry in the beginning, but right now, no. And we're going to talk about that. How do you resurrect a book that's already out there? Okay?
Okay.
So now did you want to say something? Oh, Colin.
Oh,
So I want to tell you something you probably already know. There are over 2 million books, 2 million published every year. A relatively small number of that, less than a third, are traditionally published. The rest are self-published, and a lot of them are what I would call a ham sandwich between two pieces of white bread. No nutrition. There are a lot of very bad books out there. But and also it's a very competitive market. But you know, a book is a business. What people forget is when they come to me and they say, I wrote this book, I spent 2 or 3 years of my life writing it, researching it. Maybe I work with somebody and nobody's buying it. And I say, what'd you do to market the book? And know what they say? Market? So that is half of the job. And we're going to talk about that because I also happen to have a marketing, a PR and marketing situation that I offer to my authors. But it's really important that you understand that a book is like any other business. It is just going to lie there like a lox unless you let the world know that you've written this book. Okay, so now let me start with those 4 categories. Let's say that you want to write a book because people tell you you have a good story, or maybe you want to write a memoir. I did a Holocaust memoir, Angel of the Ghetto. This book was Sam Sola's One Man's Triumph Over a Heartbreaking Tragedy. It became a documentary. He came here from Bialystok with $10 in his pocket and built a $100 million business in New York. He had never told people what happened to him in the Bialystok ghetto. It is a riveting story. And after he wrote it, he was honored in his hometown of Kinishin and in Bialystok. And it was a wonderful thing that happened to him. And now his children and children's children know what this man was made of. It's an amazing story. So memoirs are really good. So the first thing you have to do is identify your core message. So people come to me and they say, I think, who's going to read your book? I say, and they say, well, everyone should read my book. No, there's no everybody. You have to identify your core message and reflect on what aspects of the story reflect your lessons in life. What themes or messages are central to your narrative? What personal experiences or insights drive you that you want to share with the world? Then you'll know who your audiences are. You know, you have to determine what makes your story unique. And of course, in Shakespeare, there are no new stories, but we humans are a storytelling animal, and we need reminders. And that's why at age 11, when I read Guy de Maupassant, short stories in English, not in French, I said, if somebody can use words to take me into a little village in France so many years back, and I feel like I'm there, that's what I want to do with my life. And that's how your book should read. It should transport people into a mood or into your world. It should reflect who you are, the soul, and you have to put your soul into that book. So how you handle it is really very important. Also, I've done a lot of business books, and I can tell you that several of my clients made millions of dollars with their books. Now, not by selling a lot of copies, We all want to sell a lot of copies, but that's the universe at work. That's word of mouth to a certain extent. It is marketing as well. But, you have to understand that in terms of a business, a book is not a good to have these days. It's a got to have. Whether it's a bookini, I trademark bookini, Bookini, a little book of 60 to 100 pages, which is very direct on a topic, or it's a full-blown business book. That is your calling card. So how they made millions is we put a powerful cover letter on it, and we sent it to, in one case, she sent it to the CEOs of public companies, and the phone never stopped ringing. And in another case, it was a financial advisor, a fiduciary, who I have his book here, and he sent it out to prospective clients, gave it out at meetings when he gave talks, and people gave him their multi-million-dollar portfolios. So you can use a book as the ultimate marketing tool. And having a book is really a door opener. I've also worked on novels. Sometimes people want to tell a story, but there's some guilty people involved, or somebody is still alive, or whatever. So they do what is called a roman à clef. Roman, Roman, It means story with a key. So it's fiction. It's a true story that is presented as fiction. And some of them, they do very well, by the way. Some of them are like The Nanny Diaries, The Devil Wears Prada, Valley of the Dolls, Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar was a roman à clef. On the Road and Primary Colors, which was based on Bill Clinton's presidential campaign. I mean, there's so many, you can look them up, but they do really well. And I love helping people with novels and roman à clef, fictionalized stories. So let me tell you that group number 2 has started to write a book and you feel stuck. You find yourself procrastinating because you do need outside help and you're not sure who that should be. And you should be very cautious. There are a lot of people who are not going to give you what you need and charge you a lot of money and not produce. So maybe you're unsure about your topic. Who will be interested, or if you have what it takes to tell your story effectively to the right audiences. One of my weaknesses is chocolate covered pretzels. So I tell myself, oh, it's dark chocolate. It's medicinal, okay? So you have to really know what you want to say to the world. And it helps to have somebody who's not that close to you, but knows what they're talking about, hear you and tell you what book you should write. Because a lot of people come to me and they say, this is the book I want to write. And I say, that's not the book you were born to write. And that's just my little gift. My gift is to know what book a person should write. And part of that is hearing them and hearing what their life experience is, but also what their intention is, what they want that book to do for them. So if you are in group number 2 and you have started to write a book, you need to do a few different things. You need to put some real time into the book. I mean, you have to sit and write. So maybe you should, if you're a morning person, block out 9 to 10, 9 to 11, 8 to 10, whatever it is. And if that doesn't work, or maybe you just work on the weekends, but absolutely sit down and write. A lot of people talk about writing, but they don't actually do it. one of the things that I offer people is a 2-hour session, very inexpensive, but it's a developmental session where we talk about what book you should write. And out of that, the book that's the right book for you to write. So I love to do that as well. There are different kinds of editing. One is called developmental editing, and that's developmental editing focuses on the big picture, like structure, plot, character development. Even in business, if you already have some significant copy, this stage might involve some substantial rewrites or reorganization of your book. So you really have to know what your purpose is. Do you want to tell people how to be healthier, happier, live longer, better? Do you want to share a trauma that you lived through, and like the phoenix rising, and you want to share that so that you can prevent other people from having to go through what you went through? A lot of the books that I do are like that. People really want to share some lessons. I had a book that got a publisher, an agent and a publisher recently, and this guy was born with fetal band syndrome. In utero, some bands wrapped around his leg and his hand, so he had to lose a leg and some fingers and that kind of thing. And it was something that he really had to battle, but he made such lemonade out of that and owns a humongous national law firm. And a lot of the people that I work with have been extraordinarily successful at overcoming things. And they really want to tell people how they did it. And it's also a way to kind of look in the mirror at yourself and see how far you've come, because we're not really good at acknowledging ourselves. So once you know what you want your book to be it business, be it a memoir, be it, is it for young adults? Is it for a particular industry or professional group? It could be for a general audience if it's a health book or a spiritual book or something like that. But then what you do is you research, see what other books are anything like the one that you want to write. That is the first thing that I do for my clients, and I ask them to do it as well. You want to write a book about a particular topic? Who's written books like that? How did they do? Who was the agent? Who was the publisher? Who was the publicist? All that today with technology is so easy to find. You can also ask my new best friend, ChatGPT. I do that for research. I do my own writing, but I do think that Chat is really good about helping you. For example, if you want an agent, you look at all the books in your arena, and then you can go to Chat and say, my book with this working title is about such and such and such, and these are some of the books that are like it. Can you tell me which agents would be interested in a book like mine? And you are going to be shocked at what comes on. The names, the contact information. It's really amazing what Chat and what AI can do, So I would not pass that up. It's really very, very important to do that. And I also do something that you don't have to work with me on this, but I call it a book report. And I think it's a good idea to find somebody to read your book if you already have a manuscript. I read it in a certain way. I find out what other books are anything like it, how they did, if this is well written, and I tell people, I write an evaluation. This is what worked. This is what didn't, how to fix it. And out of that, people get their complete roadmap for moving forward. That's what I call a book report. So again, you can go to a beta group. A BETA beta group is people who will read your book and give you feedback. But I just want to tell you that make sure that these are people who know what they're talking about. Because, for example, you can join a book club and then you have to give feedback to other people's books. And that can be very painful, especially if some of them are not good, So I think the best thing you can do is try to have a budget to work with professionals. Yes, there are mutual feedback groups, but it's time consuming and you might not want to burst somebody else's bubble. So I understand if you don't want to or can't pay a professional, but that is your best option, to be honest. If you choose that route, always seek recommendations from people you trust. So let's say in the last category, you've written a book, you worked with an agent and found a publisher, or you self-published. And by the way, a lot of famous authors are self-publishing, Stephen King, other people, because today you still have to market your book. Publishers are not going to do that for you. And there's a lot of things that you can do very easily today. So why do you want to, pay a publisher? Yes, there is prestige in having a publisher. They're not giving out the big advances so fast. So don't think you're going to make money from that. But I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, about publishing and self-publishing. So the big thing is, I don't care if you get one of the top 5. I don't care if it's Penguin Random House, the top 5 Penguin Random House, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, the Hachette Book Group, or Macmillan, and they all have, by the way, imprints. And the imprints that they have are based on what they're interested in. If they're interested in historical fiction, if they're interested in business books, if they're interested in science books, etc. So you go online and you see what kind of books a particular agent is interested in. But let's say you had an agent, you had a publisher, the book sold a few hundred copies, maybe 1,000, and now it's sitting on Amazon and nobody's buying it. What do? Not a problem. This is not rocket science. You have to hire a publicist, and that publicist has to be good, because I've heard horror stories. And it's really it's a marathon, not a sprint. Your book can be a year old, 2 years old, 3 years old. It doesn't matter. It still can become a bestseller. And by the way, there's an easy way to become an Amazon bestseller. You just get everyone you know to buy the book on a particular day. And if you, in your category, have sold more books than other people in that category, and even if it's only for a few hours, you are an Amazon bestseller. So that's like a little thing. And there are also a lot of contests that you can, The point is that a book is a business. You wouldn't open a retail store after spending a lot of money renovating the space, only to hope on opening day that people come in without advertising, right? You wouldn't open a business without advertising. The same goes for a book, because today publishers do very little marketing beyond like Publishers Marketplace, Publishers Weekly. They put out some reviews. So you need a publicist who truly gets you and knows how to secure interviews for you, both online and in front of live audiences. And by the way to sell a lot of books is to give talks. To talk, whether it's on Zoom, like something like this, or it's in front of large audiences, organizations, etc. And I do put my authors in front of a lot of people, and they do bulk sales in advance. So that's one way to, get the ball rolling. And not everyone's going to be on the Today Show or CBS Sunday Morning, but you can be on a lot of podcasts, and there are ways to do simple videos, like 1 minute with a cell phone. You do a bunch of those, make them very provocative. One of the ones I did for a minute was I wore multiple hats. And I said, I don't mind looking foolish wearing all these hats, because I want to deliver a message that we all wear many hats. And one of the hats you can wear is to be a successful author. And that got a lot of attention. So there are many, many clever ways that you can market yourself. So I want to talk about making money from your book. Aside from, if you have a business book, for example, I told you that you can make a lot of money because it's a marketing tool. But what if it's a memoir and you put it on Amazon? Okay. How do you publish this book and how do you make money? Okay. I'm going to talk to you about that. But first, I want to tell you that ghostwriters, and there are all kinds of ghostwriters. There are ghostwriters like me. There are ghostwriters who don't have quite as much experience, first-time ghostwriters, highly seasoned ghostwriters. I mean, you more or less get what you pay for. When people tell me that I'm expensive, I don't argue, because I think whatever work you do in life, you have a right to ask for what you think you are worth. But I say a Timex tells time and a Rolex tells time. With guys, I say a Ford will get you there, and so will a Maserati, but it's a different ride. So sometimes people go for the Timex, and then they, they come back to the Rolex. The ghostwriter doesn't get any credit, although I have a few books where they said with Judy Katz or and Judy Katz because they wanted to, like my Holocaust guide. But I don't ask for that. And all rights are spelled out. They are all the ancillary rights, which means foreign translations, movie rights, all the good stuff. That's copyright is all in the author's name, and that's spelled out in the agreement that you make with your ghostwriter. So, and ghostwriters and editors usually will help you find an agent. I do. If you want an agent. So the ghostwriter start with detailed discussions. And then once they understand your vision, your goals, your key messages, I do a writer for hire agreement in my case and spell out the time frame, the payment schedule. Then I tape you for an hour at a time. And once we have 10, 12 of those, I write the first few chapters for you in your voice. And we edit it. And that's how over 6 months, 8 months, a year, we get your book. And if, by the way, if you go to a publisher, it could take 2 years to get your book out. And don't shoot the messenger. That's how it is, because they have a rotation system and it takes a long time. So with business books, I pretty much think that people want to self-publish because you know what, they waited. Now they want to get the book out and use it as a marketing tool. They don't want to wait for 2 years. So, so that's how they, usually want to self-publish or use a hybrid. Okay, so I will tell you that a lot of these, even the top 5 publishers that I told you about, Random House, etc., they all have a hybrid section where they guarantee you distribution and help you get into bookstores to give book talks and things like that. Because they've gotten to the point where very few books are going to even make back their advances if they're decent advances. It's hard, you know. People are still reading, but they're not buying books quite, because there's so many books out there, so you're not going to get rich from your novel necessarily. If it becomes a movie, I have one I'm working on right now, which is being considered for a movie. And that could bring in some serious money for the woman, but not who wrote it, but not from book sales. So there are different kinds of, I said, developmental edits. There's also line editing. Line editing is focusing on the flow, the clarity, and the style of the writing, So editors who do line editing look at the sentence structure, the word choice, and the pacing. Line editing. And each one has different costs. Copy editing deals with grammar, punctuation, spelling, and consistency. The aim is to ensure that the manuscript is error-free and adheres to specific style guidelines. And then there's the final thing, which everyone must do. It's called proofreading. And that's the final step before publication, which is focusing on catching any remaining typographical or formatting errors. So let me tell you that securing a literary agent, I know a lot of people ask me about this. It really can be challenging. Having a well-prepared, well-written manuscript is important. And also you need a strong query letter. That letter is incredibly important. And that letter is what goes to agents. So let's say you've gotten a good list, whether chat helped you or you did your own investigation of who agents were for other best-selling books in your area. Then you want to write a strong letter that can significantly improve your chances of getting an agent. And it is not easy. I've gotten agents, but it takes a lot of work, I'll tell you. And then the agent may ask you to see 10 pages, 30 pages, your whole book. Maybe a synopsis of your book and a chapter. Every agent asks for something different. It's amazing. So you have to really give it some time. You have to be very patient. And if when you write to the agent, use their name. And if somebody knows an agent, by all means, it's who is always very, very helpful. I do have a few agents that I've worked with over the years at Writer's House and other places. So that's helpful, because they know who I am. But it's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee. If you are doing a business book, you want to do a book proposal. A book proposal, I do book proposals, so I can tell you that they are the business plan, and they're very, very important. It's all on my website. It explains what a book proposal is, but it's what the agent uses to sell your book to a publisher. So it's about the agent, about the author, who you are, why you're uniquely qualified to, to write your book. Hello, it's your book. An overview of the book, making it sound very interesting. Comparable books and how yours is different or better, how you compared to these books. A table of contents with a summary of every chapter, which is rough because the book may not be written yet. You may only have 2 chapters, but that's fine. You have to kind of guesstimate what will be in each chapter, and a marketing plan. And the big challenge today is very few of us, including myself, have millions of connectors online, on LinkedIn or Facebook or here or there. So you really have to be very clever and talk about how you're going to help sell this book. Maybe you belong to some organizations. Maybe you do some charitable work. Maybe this, maybe that. You have to make yourself appealing. And that's part of what that section does about, the marketing part of it. And then 1 or 2 sample chapters. And don't give up. My philosophy in life is every no gets me closer to a yes in every area of life. So you will get an agent. And there are also, by the way, publishers that you don't need an agent for. They're usually smaller independent publishers, but they're hungry. And if you have something good, you can go directly to them. But again, some want to see your entire book. Some will only read a couple of chapters. A lot of them know right away if it's good or it's not good. So you might consider hiring a professional to do your book proposal because, again, it's a business plan. And you want to look to agents who specialize in your genre or your category. So you can find them, again, through chat or through Writers Market, or literary agency websites can be useful. There are many ways to get lists of agents. And then it's always good to see what other books they've represented and then even tell them, you did such and such. I co-wrote a book called Galaxy: Healing Powers of a Rescue Dog. And the publisher that we got, Lions Press, published from Baghdad with Love about a man and his dog, which became a bestseller, and it became a movie a number of years ago. But they were the perfect publisher for me, and my agent knew that. So he went to them and said, "This is as good as Baghdad." And the book came out in February. So we're working on that. Yeah. And again, if it's a business book, you don't need to have the whole thing written to get an agent. But if it is fiction, you need an entire manuscript. You have to have that because they don't want to read a chapter or 2. They want to read the entire book. So you need that book proposal with everything that I'm raised. 1 or 2 sample chapters, a marketing and a PR plan, comparable books, and who you think your target audience is. Okay. And I just want to say at this point, rejection is a normal part of the process. It is. So the best thing you can do is, it's a numbers game. Cast a wide net. And if an agent expresses interest, respond promptly and provide whatever they ask for. If an agent is interested, they'll offer to represent you, but it could take weeks. It could take even months till somebody gets back to you. And then they don't charge you anything, just so you know. It's like when you sell a house or an apartment, they get a commission. So they get 15%, that's standard, and they get 15% of your advance, if there is one, and they get 15% of the royalties that come in. And the way it works with the publisher is that the check goes to the agent, and the agent takes out his or her 15% and sends you the rest of the money as it comes in. So that's it. Some agents are very, like, I was very close with the man who created Writer's House, Al Zuckerman, who was an amazing, he just died recently, and I mourn him. He started Writer's House, which is one of the top literary agencies in the country. and he helped Ken Follett write his books, actually, and several other major bestsellers, including Stephen Hawking. So you can look him up. But some agents will give you feedback on your manuscript to boost its marketability before submitting it to publishers. And they earn their money by handling negotiations and contracts and offering you strategic advice. You know, if a publisher shows interest, your agent takes charge of negotiating the contract and assists you in just like a real estate agent. So it's really good to have an agent if you can. And again, getting one is not the easiest thing, but also, should you go to a hybrid? Well, in general, I'm not a big fan of hybrids. Hybrids mean you pay for almost everything. And that could be anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000. So there are some that are good, only a few. I know what the good ones are, and we can always talk about that, but I prefer self-publishing over hybrid for many reasons. But they often provide professional editing, design, formatting. But again, these are things you can do with a freelancer and pay a lot less, usually. Hybrid publishers might offer you a quicker turnaround from manuscript to publication, which is appealing when you're eager to release your book. And if you've got lots of money and you want them to do a professional cover and graphic design, I will tell you a story that I found a woman named Rika, R-I-C-A. I shouldn't even tell you this because I shouldn't share her with anybody, but she's in the Philippines and she does the most remarkable covers, front cover, back cover, graphic interior design for under $200. And that is not to be believed. And I've used her on several books. I'm using her on 2 books right now. Unbelievable. Something I used to pay $2,500 and up for is now $200, and she does a great job. So there, Fiverr is really a wonderful resource. Fiverr, Fiverr. Unbelievable what you can get, So let's say that you want to self-publish, okay? What exactly is that process? It's timely and you have a lot of control. And especially if you have a business book that you want to put out pretty quickly, self-publishing gives you control over the entire process. And you can get people to help you relatively inexpensively to put the book out on KDP Publishing, which is Amazon's publishing house. So the first thing you want to do is make sure your manuscript is polished and ready for publication. So let's say you have it and it's ready. You give it to KDP Publishing, and they do what's called print on demand. You can get hardcover, you can get softcover, you can get ebooks, you can go audiobooks, all of that through KDP Publishing. So let's say that you now have, and you always want to get a proof book. I get proof books for me, my client, and maybe one other person, and we all make sure the spacing is right, the cover's right, the blurbs are right. That's another thing. It's really important to get people to rave about your book, advance praise for your book. And it's something else that I help people with. I'm doing a book with a top fitness guy right now. And I told him he needed blurbs. I wrote some for him. He went to some of the top people in strength and conditioning, top coaches of Olympic champions, of famous athletes. And what he got was remarkable. We're going to be putting it all on his book, but it makes a big difference. I did a book with a doctor. It was a novel, and I went to Stephen King, and Stephen King wrote, best damn medical thriller I've read in 25 years. So we changed the cover, we put it right above the title, and the book obviously went viral from that, Stephen King. So I mean, that doesn't happen every minute, but there's so many ways that you can get people to praise your book. And you always want to get 5-star reviews on Amazon. That's very, very important. Okay, so Fiverr, 99 designs. Others, you don't have to spend a fortune. Okay, so how do you make money from books? Well, let's say that you price your book at $19.95, because that's what I use 19.95. I figure when you do bulk sales or back of the room sales, everyone's got a $20 bill they can pull out if you don't want to have a whole thing with credit cards and stuff, so you can do it that way. So KDP takes 60% of that $20, 60%. And that means 40% goes to the author. So the author, you would think, would get $8. But they also subtract the cost of printing the book and the delivery. So the cost, just to do round numbers, it's about $4.50. But let's say $4 is the print on your $20 book. So that means that, and then usually 20 cents delivery. So all that's typical. So that means the author gets $3.80 is their profit on a $20 book. And, if it's a little more expensive, then you make a little bit more, like that. And if it's a hardcover and you price it higher, you make a little more. But if you go to Ingram Spark, which is like Amazon, like KDP, it's another publisher that people use, you're making the same $2 to $4. And if you go to a hybrid, they also give you about $2 to $5 per book. Ingram Spark has some advantages because their distribution is a little better. They can help you get into bookstores. But I get my authors into bookstores anyway. Usually not always Barnes and Noble, although you can get into Barnes and Noble if you're local. Like, let's say you live in Las Vegas and you can bring some people in and you let them know that you're a local, or your publicist does. They will have you come in and do a book signing or a book reading. That's probably the only way, if you self-publish, how you can get into a bookstore. But the independent bookstores, we self-published a book in New Orleans, and I have my own imprint called New Voices Press, so we use that. And he was in 2 bookstores in New Orleans because he was well known in the arena, and a lot of people came for him to do a reading. So, you're not going to get rich on your memoir. I'm hoping that you won't do your memoir to get rich on it unless it becomes a movie. That's a whole nother story. That means going to a book to movie agent, and you're not going to do that on your own. But I do that as well for my clients. So you have to, once your book is, you have a cover, you have back cover copy, you're going to need somebody to write a summary. If you look on Amazon, you'll see that there's always a description of the book, and there's an author's page with a picture of the author and some, biographical material. That's something that a publicist will do for you. Okay, so, and also a lot of people do ebooks. Well, ebooks are automatic. We do ebooks immediately. But a lot of people do audiobooks. People like to listen to, especially memoirs. They like to listen to it, or a business book on a plane, in a car, on a train, like that. So it's always good to, if you can, record your own book, but it's a lot of work. For my Holocaust memoir, I hired somebody who had an accent a lot like my author, and it was really successful doing an audiobook with an actor or a boy. Call it a voiceover person. These are actors, the voiceover people. So you can do that, and if you do a business book, you definitely want to do speaking opportunities. It's really important to put yourself out there and not hide your light. The whole idea of having a business book is to keep, and by the way, you get, if you self-publish, you get the author's price. So for example, it might cost you $3 or $4 to buy the book. So a $20 book is still going to cost you $3 or $4. So you're not making the money, but I buy them 30 at a time in a box, and then you can send them to wherever you're going to speak, or you can have somebody come with you and do back of the room sales, and you're getting $20 for a book that costs you $3. So that's another way that you can, if you have 500 people in the audience or 1,000, which some of my clients are able to pull that kind of audience, or you're on a panel, you can do well. You can make some money. But again, it's not going to change your lifestyle. How do you know if your book is any good if you self-publish? Well, if the book achieves what you originally set out to do, whether it's attracting higher paying clients, building a global reputation, securing speaking opportunities, sharing a memoir with your family, or whatever your goal, it's a success. Keep in mind that a book is a vehicle for introducing the world to who you are and reaching specific audiences. So there are various ways to measure success. Not every book has to be a New York Times bestseller. I had several, but I had one that was a Wall Street Journal bestseller called A Question of Respect, Bringing Us Together in a Deeply Divided Nation. It was two political friends and colleagues, pollsters. One was a Democrat, one was a Republican. They were on two different sides of the aisle, but they didn't like what was going on. And so they wrote this book, and that book is now in several universities. A Question of Respect. You can look it up, and it was a major Wall Street Journal bestseller. Okay, so what I suggest tonight is, instead of thinking about the book itself as a book, think of it as a communications vehicle. In other words, for two purposes. The first purpose, believe it or not, is to clarify your own message and see yourself, who you really are. It's like holding up a mirror to yourself and writing for your true audiences. So, so it's a marketing tool also. Like I say to people, I'm not responsible for how many books sell, but what do you want this book to do for you? And again, some people want to do a TEDx talk. TEDx talks are enormously successful. And I set that up for people. And you may use your book in so many different ways. I give my book out I wrote this little book myself over here. It's called From 18 to 84. So I wrote it last year. And counting, One Woman's Blueprint for a Joyous Third Act. So it talks about how I became the youngest PR director at Madison Square Garden, how I became a ghostwriter, why I live in New York, my thing about dogs, my 1 year of dating Cary Grant. Well, this is what I looked like the day I met Cary Grant. So we are all beautiful when we're 20 and 30. But I wrote this little book, but I give it to people. I don't try to even sell it. I think I put down 1995. Yeah. Here's a book called Garnering Capital, Make the Right Decisions, Penetrate the Market, Achieve Profitability. It's another book I wrote. This one did really well. You and Your Partner, Inc. Entrepreneurial couples succeeding in business, love, life, and love. And we interviewed like 50 couples who work together, all kinds, straight couples, gay couples, siblings, husband, wife, everything. And that was, a very targeted kind of book, and people loved it. This is The Angel of the Ghetto book that I mentioned to you. It's really worth reading. And he's got a lot of pictures in the middle. I love putting pictures in the middle. I usually take 10 pages, which is 20 sides, and we do the photo gallery. He made millions. Who's got your financial back? Conquering all challenges with the right advisor, Paul Reback. Who's got your financial back? And that. I also want to tell you that academic publishers are really good. They won't give you an advance, or if they do, it's a very small advance, and they do give you the royalties are small. This is Hadassah Lieberman. Joe Lieberman's wife wrote Hadassah, An American Story, and she published it at Brandeis because she went to Brandeis. I have a client who went to Columbia. He became a big doctor, and so Columbia wants to publish his book. This book became a bestseller. It's called Creating We. Change I thinking to we thinking, build a healthy, thriving organization. This woman unfortunately died, but she wrote several books. And this first book that I did with her, I'm just going to read you a couple of sentences. Most of us think we have books inside us, and we either find a way to put the words to paper, or we just dream about doing it. There are a few people who I want to acknowledge who were pivotal in my book writing journey. First, to JUDY KATZ, my personal friend, who is a genius, her word, I didn't say that, at finding, developing, and promoting authors. Without Judy, I would have lived only with my hopes and dreams of writing a book. When my words were good enough, she introduced me to Al Zuckerman, who became my agent. Al turned the task of finding the right publisher into a journey of discovery. So, see, it's really important, I think, in every aspect of life, to have a team, be it your medical team with the captain at the helm, the doctor who knows you best, or anything that you do in business or in life, you really want to have good professionals. So just remember that it is a numbers game. You want to cast a wide net. Don't be discouraged. If you keep at it, it took my agent about a year to get me the publisher that we got for my dog book. He was amazing, and he didn't give up. And I'm working with a novelist now, and we're struggling. But his book is being read by everybody. And I know that eventually we will find a champion for that book. You have to take your ego out of the equation. You really do. And you start out with why this book, why me, and trust the universe that it will take care of you. Okay, most PR professionals charge anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a month. And they usually ask for a commitment of several months. I work with a PR firm and I get the speaking opportunities. They get the big placements, and we charge $6,000 a month. And we ask for 3 months, because in a quarter of a year, 3 months, you can get an enormous amount done. And people are usually very, very happy with, and then every Friday you get a report. Here's who we spoke to. Here's what we placed. Here's what we're going to do next week. So you never have that silent dread. Oh my God, are they doing anything for me? And that often happens. I know that there's some big name firms where the head guy will shake your hand and take your money and then give you somebody in the back room who's just starting out. So you have to be very, very careful. When you self-publish, and the back of the book, you have to have what they call an ISBN and a barcode. So the ISBN is the unique identifier of the book. It's placed above the barcode, and it costs $125. I supplied them to my clients, but if you could buy one, and that is $125, and the barcode itself is $25. And both of them are from Bowker Publishing Services. So they provide both the barcode and the ISBN, which you can get in one day. Boom, boom. And then you give it to whoever is graphically designing your book, and they put it on. It's very easy. I know the first time you do anything new, it can be a little scary, but. And then the Library of Congress. So every book has a contents or Library of Congress page where it talks about the publishing and stuff like that. And you can look at any book that you look at except novels has here. So it's got the name of the book, who the author is, who published the book, the copyright, all rights reserved kind of thing, and then categories like this. This book is Holocaust, History Jewish, World War II, Founding of Israel, Immigration, Biographies and Memoirs, and Entrepreneurship. So, that kind of thing. And always there's a picture of a headshot. Okay. So, that is, if you want the Library of Congress to offer the books to libraries, we help you do that. And there are unique identifiers, so that's, Library of Congress. I don't always do that, but sometimes you want to reach out. There's also something called BookBub. BookBub is widely regarded as the most powerful platform for driving rapid book sales and visibility. So what you have to do is you have to be willing for a short period of time to discount your book. It has massive reach, BookBub. You can look it up. An immediate spike in sales, strong impact on Amazon rankings, and residual sales. So if somebody has a book that's not selling, I would absolutely tell them to go to BookBub. But there's a cost involved, anywhere from $500 to $5,000, which is more to the $500 range, but it depends on the book itself and the pricing. BookBub is amazing, and how you get accepted is you have to have strong reviews. So you have to have your friends, your relatives, your colleagues, your everybody you ever knew, give you 20 to 50 reviews with a 4 something or 5-star reviews, and you have to have a really good cover, and you have to have a compelling blurb that hooks readers, and discounted from 99 cents to free just for a period of time in a certain category. And it's a little trick that a lot of people don't know about. So, of course, book favors books that already look successful. If you have 20 plus reviews with a 4 or 5 rating on every one, and something in a very accessible commercial topic or genre, whether it's a memoir or it's a business book, and you're willing to do the discount and you want rapid visibility and a ranking boost, I would suggest that you do this. I would suggest you invest in it. But if you have fewer than 20 reviews and you're a new author, or you don't want to spend the money, don't bother. Yeah. So, okay, we have covered a lot, and I hope I have reassured, inspired, and entertained you. And I would be more than happy to take your questions. And I want to remind you that what Richard said, he will give you my email so you can contact me, and we can set up a time to discuss the unborn book that might be lingering inside your heart and your soul right now, an unborn book that needs a book doula like me to deliver it, helping you become the book parent and authority you truly deserve to be.
Very nice. Thanks, Judy. Very, very informative. So now what we'll do is we're going to delve into, we want to make it very, interactive the next 40 minutes or so with questions that people have, any ideas. And, I definitely want to delve into like AI and the whole interesting things that are happening in AI and the publishing world and how it's affecting writers and publishers and all that stuff. But let's delve into, Yavi has a question. So what recommendations do you have for someone who wants to bridge the gap between professional credibility and popular audience? Authors like Irving Yalom, Nassim Taleb, James Hollis, or Ian McGilchrist.
I'm sorry, who asked that question?
Yavi.
Okay, what kind of a book is that, a business book that you want to write, and you're asking how to get it out there in a big way? I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Sure. I think the question is, I want both to be taken seriously from the professional audience,
Right.
in this case, psychology and psychotherapists. But also
Mass audience.
have a popular appeal. So it's both credible within academia and at sort of the university level, but is also trying to reach a very broad audience, like those authors have.
Here's an example. This is called Replacement Children, The Uncommon Script. So it's a book about, and it also talks about some famous people, Princess Diana, Elvis, many others, are replacement children. It means that a sibling died or something happened, and then you're born and you're kind of replacing that child. The point is, yeah, it's a very interesting book.
Yeah.
Replacement children. So she wanted a broad audience, obviously, but she also went to people like Katie Couric, people like Valerie Bertinelli, and other celebrities who are known to be replacement children. They've written about it, they talk about it. And so getting that kind of endorsement from somebody is a way to, is a way to get it into the mainstream, but also to, specific. The other thing is, like, if I was working with you, I'd get you speaking opportunities and panels in your arena so that you would be known in your area. But then at the same time, you're going out to via LinkedIn, via Facebook, via podcast interviews. You want to get out there and talk to a broad audience. So I think for that, you really need a publicist.
Mm-hmm. And would you say, like, you mentioned the bikini, and I did go to your website.
Yes.
Love the word, by the way. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you should maybe have like some logo where you have like the skinny book, like a red little number.
Yeah.
And figure that out. But I wonder whether, can you talk a little bit more? And this is going to be my last question, because I'm sure other people have questions. What have you found is for the bikini format? What works for that, and what doesn't work for that? Could you speak to that? What you found?
So I'm doing a bikini now for somebody. It is when you have a topic. For example, I did one with a chiropractor that was very successful. He's talking about certain aspects of chiropractic. If you're in law and you want to talk about estates or some specifics, it's a very targeted. Mark Twain wrote to a friend, "If I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter." So the bikini is 60 pages to 100 pages, no more than that. It's not 200, it's not 300. My typical books are 250 to 275 pages, 65, 70,000 words. This is a smaller book, but it's so accessible. I'll show you a bikini. It really is. Here's one. So this one is 70 pages. Garnering Capital. Okay? By William Garner. I love using people's names. Garnering Capital by William Garner. Make the right decisions, penetrate the market, achieve profitability. It's more targeted than a 200-page or 300-page book.
Got it. Yeah, it seems like that could also be a vehicle for a book, and that's basically would be that could be a chapter within a larger book. Thinking in terms of how that could be built on in the future. So, okay, I'm done
you
now.
Can start with the person I'm working with now is raising millions of dollars for something. So she wants to do a bikini to talk about what it is she's raising capital for. And then she's going to write a memoir, which is how she got to be in this incredible, very unique industry that she's in. But she wants to start with, a marketing tool that she can give to people in her industry who would invest. And she doesn't want to wait more than a few months to get the book out. She wants to start using it right away. So it costs a lot less to do a bikini than it does to do a book that takes a year to 2 years.
Thank you very much, Judy. Your energy, and your vitality is coming off the screen. I'm sure I speak for everybody when I say that.
Oh, thank you.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
See, here's the thing: you're such an amoeba compared to me, because I'm 85 and I hope to be around for a while.
I have a feeling you are going to be around for a while. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I would say a while plus.
Well, if you're interested in a bikini, you should talk to me.
Thank you.
Nice. All right. Cindy has a question.
I love the bikini. I thought for me, writing my full book and then having a series of bikinis after from my crazy experience of life, women with PTSD, you know, finding psychedelics that changed my life and things like that. I think people, especially with people with PTSD, they have this, it's hard to concentrate, it's a
But if
severe
you
brain
did a,
damage.
if you did a bikini on
Yeah.
PTSD, on psychedelics for PTSD, that's a great topic. You don't need more than 60 pages.
I think so too. And,
And that would
anyway,
get
so
you
that's
out there.
the one big question I have for you is so, I keep thinking, why isn't my book done? Why isn't my book done? Why isn't my book done? And I've been working on it for a decade, but 5.5 years I was in court. Then I spoke at the Senate for another year and a half. And so, what happened is the book continued to evolve to something different, and I kept saying the book can't be out there because there's no happy ending. Like, it's like, we got to have a happy ending here. Where's the happy ending? And
You
so I got
don't have to have a happy ending that you think of as a happy ending. But the
Well, it
fact,
was happy. I mean, I won my court case. I spoke at the Senate, changed the law, and then I got severely sick for a decade trying to find the cure for PTSD. And then,
well, you and I need to have a sidebar.
okay, yeah. So anyway, my biggest question, and then I'll let everybody else talk,
Sure.
is I've had people, not me proactively, like I'm a salesperson, like that's what I do. I can sell my book, I can speak about it, but I am not a writer. Like, I wrote it all, I have a manuscript, and I done really
So you
well,
need an
but
editor. If you have a manuscript, what you need is an editor. I'm an editor, but
yes,
you can
I'm
get
at the
it.
editing
You
stage
know
now,
that.
yes.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
my
Okay.
question is, I've had quite a few people approach me for a mini series. Now, I don't get too excited about movie, just like you. It's like if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But I literally have talked to 3 different producers
So what is your
about
question?
huh?
What
My
is your
question is, should I be writing the book or should I do more of like, is there a different way to do the book to
If
present
you want
to,
to keep all the rights, it starts with a book. Almost every movie
okay,
that you see these days
just
comes from a
focus on the
book.
book.
Write the
Okay.
book. Okay.
All
All
right.
right. And
All right.
all right, sweetheart.
That's the biggest question I had. Thank you.
Okay, sure. All right. Any other questions?
Now, so Judy, how about you get into AI and the AI world, and then we'll go into.
Yeah, it's a big, big, big situation right now because a lot of people check to see how much AI you use. You know, you have to be very, very careful. Somebody, I don't remember the name of the book, but somebody wrote a book. It had a publisher, one of the big publishers, and it turned out that she used AI to write the book. And they canceled the book. They stopped selling it. You can ask your father. He knows because he told me about this. It is a very serious problem. I love technology. I think that AI is wonderful for research. Chat is amazing, but you don't want to ask a bot. A bot means robot, B-O-T. That's robot. You don't want to ask a robot to write your book. And I don't think that robots, they may automate businesses and things, and they will come up with all kinds of wonderful research and even can improve a letter. But don't depend on technology or any kind of AI to create your characters or come up with the plot because it's going to be formulaic. It's not going to be from this. It's not going to be from here, the heart. So that is a problem.
Interesting.
And a lot of writers are terrified now. They're really afraid. And unfortunately, like the Washington Post just fired a huge number of their journalists, their writers, because they do use formulaic AI to write some of the articles. And it is a problem. The writers' unions are up in arms. People are very worried about it. I think we're going to settle into it. I think all I know is I hope to live long enough for them to have humanoid robots. I just want one that looks just like Harry Belafonte to come and live with me because he's my mad crush. But I think that eventually we are going to have robots that help us in our homes with a lot of things, and I think that's very exciting. But let's not lose the human element because the stories that we come up with come from our experience. They don't come from these robots.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing that you could create like hundreds of books and put it on Amazon through this AI and just have it on
Absolutely.
Amazon. It's kind of like interesting. You could just create all these things and have hundreds of books and sell them, and and it takes 1 hour to create a book. So
Yeah, but they're not going to be bestsellers because
yeah.
they're going to be very formulaic. Because that's what the robots know. They take things from a lot of people and they sort of put it into, one pot.
Yeah. Okay, Caleb has a question. Could you give a
Okay,
little more advice on working with a publicist, specifically
sure.
how to create successful relationship? Should we go to them with a marketing plan and expect them to execute, or can we expect them to help us define the plan?
Well, since I started out as a PR director of many organizations and had my own PR firm for many years, I can tell you that the right publicist will come up with the marketing plan with you. They're not waiting for you to tell them what to do. They should know who your audiences are and how to reach them and the best ways to reach them, be it guerrilla marketing, doing some unusual things, doing the 1 minute videos that I talked about that have, some interesting aspects to them. I'm sorry, what else did you want to know? The marketing.
Yeah, should we go with them with a marketing plan, expect them to execute?
Yes, you definitely should. You definitely should expect them to execute, or else what are you paying them for? Yeah. Of course. I get people on a lot of podcasts and a lot of talk shows and a lot of speaking opportunities in front of different groups. And you shouldn't wait until your book is out. You should do it a few months before because like magazine articles can take 3 months. They work ahead. So you want to start working with a publicist as early as possible. And I know there's a financial, component to that. But if you start even a month before, you can do really well.
Okay. Colin has a question.
Sure.
If you don't know a lot of people,
Yeah.
how can you generate reviews?
That's a great question. So you don't need a lot of people necessarily. You need a few good ones. Like the sports guy I'm working with knows famous athletes. You don't need a whole bunch of people, but you need people to write a really glowing review. Then we put it on Amazon as a 5-star review, or we put it on the back of the book. Put it sometimes on the best people to read my author's books and to buy the book and to do a 5-star review. So, it depends on, for example, if you do a memoir, why do you have to know a lot of people? What kind of a book would you write, for example?
Well, I wrote a memoir.
You wrote a memoir.
Although I have called it a historical fiction book. And in many ways, it's really a memoir, but it's about World War II. And I
Right,
was involved as a child in World War II, and it's about that.
right. So is it
One
on?
thing I do have is in the book, I
Yeah.
I include my father's diary of his walk, 300-mile walk through the jungle to escape from the Japanese invasion. And he also was working, doing clandestine work for the British Army. And I have a letter of commendation from one of the senior people in the military to him, and I could take a section of that out and quote it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to use something like that. That is really good. Yeah. So is that book published already?
By Amazon, yes, but uh, practically no sales, very few.
Right. So you're not marketing it. That's all. But it sounds like, for example, Hadassah found a very slim diary that her mother wrote during World War II when she was in Auschwitz. And she actually wrote it there and she put it in her book. So that is one chapter, and we played a lot with that. We were able to pull that out and people were very interested. It was very, very dramatic. So I think you have something there that you should use to appear, for people to buy your book.
Yeah, I have the book is in a sense in three sections. One is written in my mother's voice because I have her writings that I used. And it covers a period when I was too young. My consciousness had not developed. I also, as I already said, included my father's diary of his experiences. And lastly, my memories my childhood memories of what happened when we had to flee when the Japanese army invaded, and I have my memories about that and where we lived afterwards.
Well, I would be very interested to know the title of your book, and we could have a sidebar, and I can give you some thoughts on how to use what that military person wrote about your father.
Yeah, the title is, I used a title first that is an incident in the book, but was catchy. A Leopard on My Roof. Subtitle, My World War II Childhood.
Can you say the title again? A leopard?
A Leopard on My Roof.
Oh, okay.
Subtitle, A
Okay.
My World War II Childhood.
That's a very intriguing title. So I'd be happy to have a sidebar with you.
Okay, I'd like to do that.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I mean, those are the kind of books I love.
Oh.
So Diane has a question.
Okay.
What is the best, guess where is the best place to find an illustrator?
Oh, go to Fiverr, Fiverr. They are so talented. Some up and coming, some established. They're so reasonable, you won't even believe it. There's so many ways to find great, talented people on Fiverr. I'm very high on them because of Rika, my book designer, and other people that I found on Fiverr. So it's remarkable. They're freelancers.
Thank you.
Sure.
Jonathan has a question. As an academic, I have followed the publish or perish credo to earn tenure and promotion to full professor.
Publish or perish, yes. Okay. I remember that.
My products include book chapters, book reviews, and articles in scholarly journals. I'm now ready to write my magnum opus that speaks
Right.
to my passion and contribute to my legacy, and not because I need to meet job or career requirements.
Well, Jonathan, that is a good place to be. You've proven that you can write, and now you are ready to write the book you were born to write.
Yes.
I love it. That's great. So again, I'll be more than happy to have a sidebar with you, and you tell me what book you think you should write, and I'll tell you the book you should write.
Okay, yeah. So I'd be very, very happy to do that. Yeah, I just submitted a chapter to a book about a month ago. I'm waiting on feedback from that. And that
Okay.
is actually what I'm more interested. I'm interested in like the civil rights movement
Yeah.
and the critical connections between race, religion, and politics. And getting into the history of, just the United States and segregation and all that, where we are today, particularly in, the political arena. So, I have a lot to say about that. And I actually had to like scale down my words because the editor was only asking for 6,000 words, but I couldn't give him any less than like 8,000, And,
Well,
and
I
so
mean, it's one thing to provide a chapter to a book, and it's another to write your own book.
Yeah, I don't want have those restrictions. I just want to write
Right.
and just, have somebody clean it up and tighten it up and make it, attractive to an audience, like people who are, involved in, faith traditions. And, I'm really looking at the comparison between faith traditions, particularly from Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, and atheism and humanism, the secular, sacred versus the secular when it comes to fighting oppression and fighting, all the isms that, oppress people. So, whether or not, if it's best to depend on reason and logic to, get the oppressor to get the foot off your neck, or to, look for divine, intervention to,
Well, we're all looking for answers to those very important questions.
yeah,
So if you write a book that kind of gets to the central core of all of that, but give me a color and we'll talk some more. I'd have some questions. I don't want to take everyone's time, but I
yeah,
want to know who you are in all this, because obviously there are a lot of, leaders who write these kind of books. And I want to know who you are and how this book would be different, and who and how you can go out there in a big way, give talks and promote your book. So it's
yeah,
one thing,
yeah, yeah,
right? But
yeah.
also the other thing is to become, a personality.
Yeah, and I'm kind of camera shy a little bit. I kind of like do my thing in the background under the
I know,
radar,
but
but
that's your baby. You got to put it out there.
I'm working on that. I'm
Right.
working on overcoming that. But I mean,
Okay.
I grew up in the black church, and I'm a son of a preacher, and like Reverend Martin Luther King, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend
Yeah.
everybody, Rabbi, everybody who was, imam, in
We
the
need the voices. We need
yeah,
your
yeah,
voice.
yeah, and we want to speak to the powers of the rulers of darkness and their whole idea of
Okay.
keeping
So
those who
call
are
me
safe.
and
Yeah,
we will
yeah.
discuss it, and I'll
Okay.
tell you some real truths about it.
I know you can. Thank you.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. Take
Okay.
care. All right.
Jane has a question. How important is it to have an agent for a book dealing with public health and the impact of the recent demise of U.S. aid on global family planning?
I think in a case like that, you might not need an agent. I think it's a very specific, and so um, you can go to certain publishers without an agent, or you could self-publish and use the book. There are some real questions in there, because it really is a big job to get an agent for a book, for any kind of book. But it's hard to get an agent unless you find somebody who's already done some books like that have done really well and made money for the agent. Then they would be interested, So it's a question on how unique is this? How are there many other books like it? If not, who are you in the matter? What connections do you have? So again, I would be happy to talk to you about that.
Oh, I think you're on mute, Jane.
Thanks. I'll sign up once I get the link.
Oh, perfect. Okay, yes, everyone's going to get an email with Judy's email to set up time, which will be great.
Sure.
Diane has a question. When sending a book around, do people steal ideas? Not that my book is worthy of
No.
point, but just curious.
You know, it's really funny. There is nothing to worry about. People have their own ideas, their own books. No one's going to steal your, you know, your thing. And if it is well written, and there are many ways to protect yourself. You can just take a copy of your manuscript and send it to the Writers Guild, and it's on record that that's your book. But I have never heard of anybody stealing, particularly, I don't know. I think it's an irrational fear, to be honest. I would not ever let that stop me. I know people who have said to me, well, I'm afraid someone's going to steal my idea for a novel or for a business book, so I don't think I'll write it. And they never do anything because they're paralyzed with fear that someone's going to steal something they haven't even gotten. So no.
She's not speaking of plagiarism or people stealing people's actual work. Like there's a law that protects you from plagiarism, right?
Yeah, but I think more about what's the idea of the book? Is somebody going to do the same kind of book? No, I don't think there's a real rational fear there.
Okay, Andrew has a question. My manuscript is complete, but I'm concerned it's too long. I've been warned that publishers don't like taking risks on a 200K word book. It's designed to be an epic and appeal to the same audience as Lord of the Rings. And I think it's open to long books. What are some of the challenges dealing with this?
Absolutely. I can tell you that over 90,000 words is a problem. And what you could do, unless it's unbelievably unique and so well written, but what you could do is have volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. And if the first one does well, you're going to have a bidding war. Yeah, over 90,000. When you start getting into 300, 400, 500 pages, no.
All right, Lynn, excited to read your Holocaust book and see how you captured someone else's voice.
Oh, fantastic. I would love that. Angel of the Ghetto by Sam Solas. Definitely, I think that will absolutely show you how I capture.
And where is the best place that you would prefer that we buy the book? Like a small bookstore or Amazon?
Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. And if you will buy a used copy, it's very inexpensive. I always put $19.95.
I'll pay full price. But the second part of my question is there another book that you feel also was fantastic at the ghostwriter capturing the book of someone else, the person telling the story?
There are several books that I have worked on that I'm very proud of. I am very proud of Who's Got Your Financial Back because, after I wrote this book with him, I hired him for my portfolio because I was so taken with how, the authenticity and the honesty of this man and how he helped me grow my savings enormously. So I have no financial problems thanks to him. So this is a really good one. And anybody who wants an amazing fiduciary should work with this guy, Paul Reback, Who's Got Your Financial Back. But I'm proud of all my books. I really love them. The other thing is you might enjoy my little book.
I would.
People are loving it. I just did it, as an introduction. I'm not trying to make any kind of money on it, but it's 18 to 84 and counting.
And where do I get that? Amazon too?
Amazon, sweetheart.
Okay.
Yes, a lot of people, younger people don't know who Cary Grant was. You know who,
Huh.
of
I
course.
sure do. I'm not
Yeah,
young,
so
but
I have a chapter on dating him. I have a chapter on why I live in the city. I have a chapter on dogs. Dogs. I have a chapter on chosen motherhood. When I married my first husband, he had 3 boys. Yeah, I think it's interesting. People like it. But thank you for wanting to, get a sense of how I work.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, thank you so much for this. This has been great.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart.
And I will make an appointment for a little sidebar.
Okay, good.
Judy, we didn't really delve into like movie scripts and manuscripts and stuff like that. How is that like different, for those like movie buffs out there that maybe have a really great idea for a movie or maybe even a Broadway show, right? Is it process or what's maybe different?
Right. Okay, so those are called ancillary rights. I'm working with a woman now who we were able to get a producer interested in looking at a treatment.
On the roof.
We wrote a treatment and he's considering trying. You have to raise millions of dollars, understand, or you have to get a celebrity who wants to play a part. But her book, A Widow's Fire, is about a sudden longing for sex after the death of a longtime spouse. And this woman discovered that there's something called a widow's fire, which is not that unusual. And she found love in her
book writing.
early 80s.
Wow.
I know. So we have some celebrities already interested in playing her and playing the guy. And now she and her guy are both 82, same age, and they're having full-on penetrating sex, and they're having a wonderful time. Yeah. So the question is, how do you get a book to be of interest in terms of a movie or a Netflix or that kind of thing? You have to go to a book to movie agent. Those are specialized people who, know what it takes. Now, some of them charge and some of them don't. Some of them like regular agents. And if they fall in love with your project, as this guy did, they will option it for free or for a charge for a year. And then if they don't get somebody to pick up on it, it goes into what they call turnaround, meaning it's someone else can option it. Again, this is where chat is so great. Go to chat, put in, I have this property, this book, and I would like to find a book to movie agent. Who would you suggest? And you would be amazed at what comes, out of that. That's where chat and AI really shine, the research. And they do it seconds, in moments, where in the old days you had to look through this magazine and this directory and this thing and the phone book. I don't know, but it's really, that part of technology is wonderful.
Now, Judy, for those people maybe out there that are thinking about writing a book, but they don't really know, what type of book to write, is there a type of maybe genre out there, maybe that's, maybe that there may be a need for a book.
Popular.
Well, I don't know if it's, I know the children's books are big still. Is there any type of genre that you think is underutilized or not too many books
Yeah,
on
I
that
mean,
maybe do better?
there's a book called The Cozy, which is like a certain formula for a romance book. Science fiction, horror. Yes, there are, right now, memoirs are not there's so many of them that it's really hard to get an agent and a publisher for a memoir unless you're, a big name, unless you're famous, spare. But yeah, there are some very interesting historical novels. And again, the Romana Clay, the fiction, the real, like maybe a murder or a mystery or something turned into fiction, does very well. So yeah, but I mean, you want to write a book that captures you and not because it's currently popular. Mm-hmm. Young adult, though, young adult, and somewhat older adult, werewolves, those kinds of books are very popular. Anything, science fiction, horror, romance, but something with a little bit of a twist. And go on chat and say, what kinds of books are people looking for today? What kinds of books are agents looking for, that are some unusual genres? And see if you find one that appeals to you, because, you're going to put a lot of your time, your effort, your love, your money into doing something like this. You want it to speak to you, not just because it's, popular. I mean, look, heart surgeons do really well, but that's not something I would want to be doing. Yeah.
Any other questions? I know Cindy.
A quick question. So it came up, I put in who would want to remove my book as far as the movie industry. And they said Sunshine. You've heard of Sunshine, right?
No.
It's a producer, they take movies, women's movies. But I called them once and they said that I have to have an agent in order to talk to them.
I understand. And that is very common, because they know that there's been some vetting. There's been vetting by somebody who's in the industry, which is understandable,
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely need to find an agent for that. Unless you're already a celebrity, which none of us are. So yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? How about Judy? Any FAQs? Any questions that people ask you that may be beneficial that we didn't cover?
You need a decent budget. I'll be honest with you. I mean, people come to me and they ask me essentially to write their book for free. And if I took any of those deals and worked on the back end, I would be living in a refrigerator box on the cold streets of Manhattan right now instead of in a co-op in a nice building. So, yeah, I mean, I feel bad that some people have a good story, but they can't afford the person to work with. But you know what? Sometimes you can go to friends and family and say, I really have this novel or this memoir or this business book. I've had people do that and they get people to sponsor them. My little grandmother said to me once, Judy, darling, if you don't ask, you don't get. And it sounds so basic, but I ask. So ask somebody to help you. Say, I need X thousand dollars. I will pay you back out of the profit from my business or out of whatever. I'll pay you back or I won't pay you back. But, ask people to help you. But you do have to have a budget for working with an editor, working with a ghostwriter, working with a publicist. And, again, don't shoot the messenger, but that's how life works. Right? That's how life works. This maybe I want something that I can't afford. So either I work for it or I don't have it, which is fine. You don't have to get everything you want. But if you want to write a book, write a book. Sit down and write. Don't talk about it to everybody. I know people who start writing a book and then they discuss it. They discuss it, and that's the book. That's it. It'll never be a book. They'll never finish it, but they talked about it, So good. They get a lot of satisfaction saying, I'm writing this book. Let me tell you what it's about. But they never, don't even talk about it. Just sit down and write the damn thing. Or talk to somebody who's professional like me or someone like me. But stop talking to everybody, everywhere in your family, your friends, pillow talk, whatever, just write the book or at least write some of it so that you can have one of my book reports. And I'll tell you if it's any good. And I tell people the truth, but I don't tell them, don't give up your day job. I'm not cruel. I don't say, don't give up your day job. I say, here's the good news. You wrote a book. However, it needs some work, like a complete rewrite. No, but I mean, honestly, the good news is you sat down and you finished a manuscript. Now you got to doctor it up, and if you need help, that's great. So most people don't write a complete manuscript. So you have to congratulate yourself for doing that. But so many people do a talkie book. They don't write a book, they just talk about it. So,
Sounds great. So I put in the chat, everyone, you'll also get an email from me with Judy's email, but I also put it in the chat as long as with our Instagram and Facebook page to get updates on future events. So everyone email Judy and, set up a complimentary consultation with Judy. And she's happy to answer any further questions, on a more private, level, one-on-one. So by all means, reach out to her with any questions. Judy, thank you so much for participating this evening. It was very, very informative. Hopefully we see a lot of you on the New York Times bestseller at a certain point, and hope you gained a lot of knowledge today from Judy's expertise. So I want to thank everyone for their very valuable questions and active participation. Every month we do a different topic on different subjects. So our next one will be at the end of April, finalizing the topic there. But we always have hot topics that are affecting, people around the world. So we're looking forward to the next one. So I want to thank everyone for joining us again. And Judy, thanks again for
my great pleasure. Thank you all for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you, Judy.
Everyone will get a recording as well from today, so you could go back.
Oh, cool.
Terrific. Thank you.
Everyone.
Well done.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.